Welcome to Feisty Chess. We've got white. We're playing e4 as usual. Playing comedian. Comedian? Maybe there's a political joke in there? On Lee Chess here. So we've got the Caro-Kann. Let's go with the 2 knights, I think. It's my usual. Haven't played against the Caro-Kann in a while. Exchange, and then bishop g4 is the main line here. But bishop f5 can get black in some trouble. Okay. We're going to tickle that bishop immediately. Probably they'll trade. So we've already got the bishop pair. Okay. I suppose I can take immediately. That helps black develop. But it'll double those pawns. The other option is maybe go for c3. Bishop c4. Bishop c4 makes sense. Yeah, we're going to put our bishop on the aggressive diagonal. The alternative is bishop e2. Let's go ahead and get castled. All right, we're just going to play sensible moves here. d3. If he takes with the knight here, I'll just recapture with the pawn. Oh, I didn't see that possibility, so... All right, I'm throwing in this intermediate check. Okay, well, we have a definite imbalance here. I can play queen e4 here. And I lost my bishops, but black... I still prefer white here. Black has no safe kingside to castle on. Although that can be overestimated sometimes. I'm expecting knight takes c4. In which case I'll go for queen takes c4. If he doesn't do that, I might just play bishop b3, hang on to that light squared bishop. I could kick that knight with f4 maybe, or even d4. Okay. Yeah, I don't see good reason not to preserve my light squared bishop here. Could go bishop h6, but he's probably not looking to castle on the king side anyway. Let's just back off. We'll be able to kick that knight later. d4 is also possible. Maybe that's better than f4 here. There's not really a threat on the h2 square. I could play queen h4, hitting f6. Also keeps an eye on the h7 pawn. Probably knight to d7 at that point. Yeah, let's do this. Rook g8. I think I'll just play king h8, king h1. Rook g8 would threaten this fork on f3 with the knight, since it would pin this pawn. Okay. I think the queen looks pretty happy on h5, actually. This actually makes a threat to take on e6. A little bit sneaky, but Black kind of needs to make a decision here about what to do with his king. I'm expecting him to castle queenside. This also allows me to play bishop f4. Let's say he castles queenside. Bishop f4 looks pretty good, because a knight check, and I can recapture with the queen, and my bishop is protected. So bishop f4 threatens to play d4, win the knight. Well, but if he castles, he'll have a rook on the d file, so. It looks good just to get that bishop opposed to the queen anyway. Then maybe bishop d6. And then maybe I drop back with bishop e3. He breaks the pin that way. Yeah. Bishops. The dark square bishop looks nice for us here, hitting both sides of the board. It's a good piece. Okay. Now he's still not threatening knight check, but he's. And my bishop covers g5, so I feel like things are okay. Still, I feel like it'd be a good idea to get mine. Well, let's make that knight make a decision. I like f4 with f5 here. That puts black under a lot of pressure. Maybe I should be playing on the queen side since we're castled on opposite sides, but I'm just trying to use the power of that bishop. He doesn't have a light squares opposition to this. So f4 and then f5. f5 is really good if knight g4 here. Sorry, knight g6. So I think he has to play knight d7. But knight d7 actually hangs f7, doesn't it? Our queen is really useful on h5 here. Stops this check on f3, and now our rook also stops that check on f3. It's good to note. Knight d7 or knight g6? I guess knight g6 is likely. I really think black played the wrong rook here. This rook doesn't have much scope on h8. Though it defends the pawn, I don't think that's a pawn he needs to worry about, because if he wants to attack, that pawn is only in his way. Yeah, we gotta push onward here. He has to take, I guess, knight f8 is possible. Just looks really sad. I'm winning a pawn here. I just need to be careful how I win it. Black does have some forcing moves. Bishop h2 check. Rook takes g2. I have to look out for that kind of sacrifice. I suppose he can go knight f4 here. I got to give up that bishop, but after that I win at least a pawn. Always feels good to open up the game against Caro-Kann players. I feel like they want kind of a positional struggle, and when we're able to just crack open a position like this, especially when we've got the bishops. But even if we don't have the bishops, it's kind of psychologically what the Caro-Kann player, what I imagine the Caro-Kann player doesn't want to see. Okay, here we go. I have to take this. I've also got queen h4, so I don't have to take this. Queen h4 hits f6. But I think taking is just the best here. Because I just like the looks of this. Takes. Take here, and he can't take back because I got bishop takes with a fork. And I'm also hitting his f6 pawn there. So yeah, I'll trade in my bishops for this. The problem is I'm really weak on the dark squares, and he's got that dark square bishop. But I could even look at exchange sacrifices here. I think this wins me 2 pawns, doesn't it? So I can sack the exchange at some point if needed. But right now, again, this rook is just not participating, so I don't see a lot of problems with this. I'm threatening to take here. That's a pretty big threat, actually. But if he just goes, say, rook here, that's awfully passive, and I can just take. And after that, I'm threatening to win this bishop with this check. So I got a check on g4 too. And the black king is not quite safe. Castling queenside often requires this extra move, or maybe even here this extra move of getting all the way to the corner. So he's exposed to checks there on c8. Maybe rook g7 is an idea. Oh, he's got a check. Okay. Okay, king h1, I think. And if queen g6, queen g3, I can just bring back my queen to f3 pretty safely. Rook g3 might be a little more concerning, but then I can just play rook f3. So yeah, we'll go king h1. Good on time trouble here. I mean, I'm usually way down on time. Have been way down on time recently anyway. I wonder if, to take that check away from him, I wonder if this exchange sacrifice first makes any sense. Probably not. It seemed like it would have been a needless risk. Oops. Okay. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, crunch time here. Queen f7, then probably queen here. And boy, that looks tough to defend. I've got a check here. He slides over to b8. And what do? I think I just need to get my queen back. Queen f3, and he's got rook rook g3. So I'm going to go queen e2. Hitting that bishop. And now rook g3 I can meet with rook f3. Black's a long way from being able to make some meaningful pawn breaks to my position. Seems like he would need to get a pawn into the attack here to have any kind of sacrificial possibilities. I should be able to trade off one pair of rooks, and him sacrificing his other rook is probably not going to work. And I'm not sure rook g3 is even much of a threat. I might be able to get away with like rook takes f6 then. Pawn takes on f7 could be a useful move just to stop his other rook from coming into the game. So yeah, maybe that's a good move. And if he has to play queen takes f7, well, he can't. He can't play queen takes f7, can he? All right, here's an interesting try. He's trying to recover his pawn. That's a clever move. But where can his bishop go that really threatens much? Maybe I can just take on f7 here. Again, that stops his rook from coming into these open files. And he goes maybe bishop d4. Ooh, there's something like bishop g1. Some kind of crazy tactic like that, maybe. Ooh, that does look dangerous. Okay, I really don't want my queen on that file with the rook. So now queen f3 looks good. I'm also hitting f6. And I can play a rook to e1. He can play e takes, get his pawn back, or f takes. Then I've got queen f6. And I'm hitting that pawn twice. I am hitting both rooks and the pawn, so I think queen takes f6, then rook e8 is the logical follow-up. Then I've got queen f7, looking to trade queens in a favorable ending. And grabbing up more pawns, or at least... The alternative is rook e1 right now. Get my last rook into the game. Then he goes bishop g5. And I can trade his big rook. He recaptures with the queen. That looks pretty good for him. I think I'm going to take this pawn. That seems to put him on the defensive. And now maybe rook e1 looks better because this bishop is kind of pinned. Not really pinned, but kind of pinned. Okay, it's not really pinned. Yeah, queen f7. Let's go for queen f7 before we get too low on time. If we go into an ending, I got my rook on the 7th. White has that weak e6 pawn. I'm already up a pawn. My king is pretty safe. Oh, he's hung his rook. Yeah, he needed to play queen d7 or d8 there. But he couldn't... Well, he didn't need to hang on to this rook anymore. He needs to hold on to this one because I'm no longer attacking this one. Okay, well, kind of a quick ending there. Just a bit of a blunder. Let's look at the analysis and see how that might have gone otherwise. Let's see. Computer probably likes white here. Probably about a pawn advantage. Yeah. Okay, rook to e8. It gives c3 to stop the bishop from coming to d4. And then maybe pushing d4. Yeah, queen takes is probably best, but being down a pawn. But then again, he's down a pawn, but being willing to go into these endgames and say, hey, I've got opposite color bishops, might be difficult for you to win this. Queen to d8 is the only move that still protects the rook. Or you could try rook here. The problem is I just get this check in for free, and now you either have to trade queens or give your king up here, and that just doesn't look good. Like, this looks pretty good for white. I can force the queens off in some way or other, so I think queen d8 is the only way to do that, but that, yeah, that just runs into... No, what is this? What's the problem here? This? What does that do other than give away a pawn? That puts a pin onto this? Okay, the queen can't hold on to everything, can she? Queen e7, just giving up the piece. If this, then queen f4. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we just had a healthy position there. I think we made some good moves. Let's see where black kind of went wrong. And the computer's going to like this position for white because it loves the bishop pair. Ooh, it likes knight takes f6 here because it also immobilizes black's majority, 4-3 majority with doubled pawns after e takes f6. But I feel like that's probably what black was more prepared for, so I just developed. And d3, not too ambitious. I'm not looking to play d4 here. I've already got my advantage of the two bishops, and I just want to make sure everything's protected. But yeah, well, even here, Queen G3. Probably black should just take here. Oh, the computer likes D takes C4. Just to open up the D file for the rooks. Right, because we can keep black from castling if we do this. So say Queen C7. Well, let's say Queen A5. Rook D1, just to keep black from castling. So, okay, but he didn't take. It's allowed us to preserve the bishop, but it really likes black now. I made a mistake. Queen E4 is not as good as Queen H5. So the pawn's already protecting that bishop. You don't need to protect it twice just to preserve your pawn structure, but that's what I was thinking. Okay, the queen is very comfortable on H5 there. Computer still likes black, but it's nothing huge. Okay, this rook to G8. The queen's rook shouldn't go to G8, it should be the king's rook. I'm guessing that this would be a better move. Well, it's still, the computer doesn't like giving up that pawn. But yeah, this just shuts this rook out of the game for too long. Now F4. What did the computer like there? Knight G6 immediately. Suppose that's a way to preserve the light squared pawn complex here. Yeah, now we're up a pawn from all this. Cash in our two bishops advantage for this. Let's see. Yeah, F takes E6. Ooh, it really doesn't like that check. King H1. What did I miss here? Queen F3. And I saw a rook G3. It says Queen G3 and then trades. Then E takes F7. Queen, but what about Rook G3? Queen takes F6. We're just winning too many pawns here. And there's not really an attack. Because again, this rook's not playing. And he needs to sacrifice something on a light square. He has no pawns that can break things open. So he'd have to sacrifice this rook. But I just have, you know, I've got pieces on the king side. I can block checks. I can... And the bishop on the dark squares is not going to get to my king on H1. Rook F8. That seems really sad. So, okay. Yeah, I went back to Queen E2. Still, after Rook here, E takes F7. It does like. Now Queen comes to F3. And I'm down to a smaller advantage. E takes F7. I really like how that pawn just keeps the rook out of the active squares. But I was worried about something like this. Oh, but I have a check. I have a check now. I didn't see that. Say if I go to... Let's pretend that check isn't there, I guess. The bishop may look silly on G1, but the point is black has like this. And he's threatening this mate now on H2. But I got Queen F4. So I just saw those tactics and got a little scared, maybe scared of some ghosts. I didn't have time to check it concretely, so I just stayed away and went Queen F3. I thought I'm still up a pawn. And we're both kind of low on time. And then this happened. Let's see what the computer line looks like. Queen takes F7. Let's go into the ending. I've got this rook on the 7th. H5. So the 5th rank rook protects it. Then rook E1. A5. A3. Computer line's interesting. B5. So he's cleared his 7th rank, but now his king can't get anywhere. And I'm guessing the plan here is going to be like C3 and D4, like before. I suppose I could go rook F3 immediately, but that rook just looks so good on F7. A4. Huh. B4. G3. I mean, we just play chess from here, but I do have the extra pawn and more active pieces in general. So, yeah, it would have been a nice ending. It would have been instructive. Hopefully I would have played it well, but we didn't get there. But I won't complain. I'll take a win. And thank you, Comedian, for the good game. Stay feisty, everyone.